You might be wondering why we have the tomb of the Panagia in front of the church when the big holiday of the Kimisis was yesterday. And it's a tradition in the church that for many of the major feast days of the church year, we celebrate for a period of time. So that we have the Vespers of the feast that inaugurates the feast. We have the feast itself, and then we have at the end of the feast something called the apodosis of the feast. So we celebrate the feast of the Dormition of the Virgin Mary from August 15th, through August the 23rd. So next Sunday is actually the apodosis, or the leave-taking of the Dormition, and all the services between yesterday and next Sunday, we honor the Virgin Mary by displaying her icon, singing the hymn of Dormition. So you will see this next Sunday as well. For those who weren't here yesterday or Friday, we have a tradition in the church of an epitaphio, which means in the tomb, an icon of the Virgin Mary going in the tomb, just like we have an epitaphio of Christ going into the tomb that we display on Good Friday, and the tomb is called a cuvuklion, and so we have a large cuvuklion that we use only for Christ. And this year, something good that came out of the pandemic was because we couldn't use the big cuvuklion during Holy Week. I asked Felix to build me a smaller one for that purpose, and so we're using that for the Panagia. I've never believed we should use the tomb of Christ for anything but the tomb of Christ, but now that we have two of these, we have an embroidery of the Panagia and her epitaphio, and every year we'll use this going forward. If you have a few minutes, I encourage you to listen to the sermon from Friday night. Charlie sent it out yesterday with a constant contact. It is about the life of the Virgin Mary, taught in one hymn of the Vesper service, and why her death is so critical and important and inspiring for us. So I encourage you to take about 8 minutes and listen to that later on when you have a chance. The epistle lesson this morning, which is from the first letter to the Corinthians, talks about how Christians will face negativity and persecution. Some of it is a result of basic human interaction. All human beings experience negativity and persecution in some way. Every day is not all roses. And some of this will be a result directly of our Christianity. There are people in the world since the time of Christ who don't like Christians, who scoff at what Christians believe in. Maybe we feel that more now because of the mass media that gets people's negative thoughts all over the world quickly, but this has been part of the Christian life since the time of Christ. And so St. Paul wrote about it, and he says regarding the Christians, when we are reviled, we are to bless. When persecuted, we are to endure. When slandered, we try to conciliate. He talks about how Christians are held in disrepute, that sometimes the result of Christianity is that we're ill-clad and buffeted and homeless. This was the life of the apostle back then. And so Paul encourages us, when our Christianity is encountered in a negative way, not to give in to negativity, but to keep our eyes on Christ. The gospel lesson is a passage that many of us are familiar with, the story of, if you have faith as a grain of a mustard seed, you can make a mountain move from here to there. A mustard seed, if you're not familiar with it, is the smallest of the seeds. It's like a poppy seed. It's smaller than a sesame seed, so we know it's very, very small. And from a small mustard seed grows a huge tree. One mustard seed would grow a tree, and the mustard trees are very tall and they're very wide. So you could fill like the entire church with a tree like this. If you've never seen one, they're very, very large. And I remember when I was a kid, I've told this story before, I remember in my backyard we could see the San Gabriel Mountains over the LA basin. I remember thinking about this passage and thinking, if I just had enough strength, maybe I could take the whole mountain range and like move it over, like you'd see in a Star Wars movie. And of course, no matter how much I believed in God, no matter how much I prayed, I could not move the mountain range. But if you read carefully, the gospel doesn't say with faith you can move a mountain range. It says you can move a mountain, one mountain. And metaphorically, we think about the mountains that we face in our life today. Each of us is looking at a mountain we wish we could move. Some of us are parents who have students that are going to school, and we're nervous about our children going to school face to face. Some of us are keeping our children home, and we're nervous that they're going to fall behind socially because we're leaving them at home. However you cut it with the school, it's something that makes us anxious no matter what decision we make, no matter how it goes. We've each got our thoughts on the state of our world right now as far as safety goes. Some of us are really ready to go out and be as we were. Others are very skittish and want to stay home. Again, this isn't an issue that not everybody has a thought on this issue. Everybody has a thought on this issue. Many of us have thoughts about politics and social unrest. I'm not going to tip my hand here, but it's something that is on everybody's mind. And most of us are more anxious than usual about everything in life because this added stress affects us in different ways. Some of us are not eating, some of us are eating too much, some of us are not sleeping, some of us are sleeping all the time. But these are our mountains. These are our mountains. We have a really big mountain in front of us right now. I would say that I try to attack my mountain every day with faith. With faith. Now, you might disagree with this idea of attacking a mountain with faith. You may say, who needs faith to attack a mountain? Just have a strong personality, and that'll get you through the day. Strength of character will get you through the day. That faith doesn't really have anything to do with moving the mountains every day or getting over them. And I would disagree with that, especially right now, because faith is when we don't know the outcome of something, and yet we continue anyway. We have children that are going to school. Some have already been, some are going tomorrow, some are going in a couple weeks. And by the way, for those who are watching online this morning, I'm glad you're with us. We'll have a prayer for all of our students and teachers and parents at the end of the Divine Liturgy today. But we don't know the outcome of this going to school. A month from now, will everything be open and all our kids back where they belong? Or will everything be closed and this will be looked at as a great mistake that we all made? We don't know the outcome. And yet we stay in and we battle it with our schools, with our jobs, and that's faith. Faith is when you don't know the outcome and yet you still go forward. I sometimes, many days, in talking with my brother priests, have a personal worry about our church when this is all over. How will we come out of this whole thing? Will we have a full packed church as we had 6 months ago? Will we have a thriving youth program and Sunday school and things like that? But it doesn't stop me, these thoughts and these anxieties, they don't stop me from worshiping and working. This is not, again, personal strength, but a lifelong faith in God that He will take care of me whatever the circumstances are that arise. This is why we pray the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread, meaning be with us today, Lord, and whatever mountain we face, to give us whatever we need to face that mountain, and either to go over it or to remove it from our way so that we can move forward. Jesus mentions at the end of the gospel to His disciples, why could they not cast out the demon that troubled this boy? Why could they not move that mountain? And He said, this kind can only come out through prayer and fasting. Prayer and fasting are disciplines. Many of us relax these disciplines. I confess I do myself at times. But these are disciplines that help us to keep our focus on faith, to not feel overwhelmed by the things of the world. They help us maintain a sense of personal control and spiritual hope and purpose. This is why the church encourages us to do them. We just came out of a fasting period, and if fasting is not your thing, of course I encourage you to make some kind of a fast, but prayer can be everybody's thing because it doesn't take time, it doesn't take deprivation, it just takes dedication. It takes putting some time aside for God every day, to sit with God and say, Lord, help me be on the mountain that I'm on, help me conquer it or move it or endure it, whatever the case may be. This is a time during the pandemic that we should be focusing more on faith and more on prayer because the mountain is there every day. It's not going anywhere anytime soon, and we need God to help us with the small challenges that come with it on a day-to-day basis. Having said that, I'm so thrilled